Is it a good idea to build your own squat rack? Probably not. I thought it'd be a great idea to build my own squat rack because I don't have the money to buy one. And so I went ahead and got started constructing it, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there are a lot of things that go into a squat rack that I did not take into consideration. Now, does it still work? You tell me. Am I happy that I still built this? Absolutely. My wife and I have been looking for a squat rack for a very long time, but they're so expensive with everything that we wanted on it. And so the next best thing was to build one. The only problem is that there were a lot of extra things that I had to do that I wasn't anticipating to make sure that this was as safe as possible for me and my wife to use. Because if you lift, you know that equipment used the wrong way can cause a lot of harm. So I'm gonna take you through how I built it and the extra steps that I had to take into consideration when building this squat rack. So the first step was to cut all of the 4x4 beams to the correct lengths. For the base of the squat rack, I used 2 longer beams that the 4 main posts would sit on and 2 smaller cross beams for support. I cut the 4 main vertical beams all to the same length. I then braced everything together with 2 larger beams on top and secured those with 4 support beams in the middle. Once they were all cut, I started to lay out the beams for the base. I used a handful of these L brackets to help hold the shape of the rack. They don't do a thing when it comes to structural support, but keeping the beams in the right place, they're the ticket. Along with the brackets, I also used 4 of these post anchors to help keep the beams upright while I worked on securing them with the support pieces. To connect the 2 vertical beams, I cut a cross beam and used L brackets to hold it at the desired level. Once I was satisfied with it, I secured it with a few 12-inch structural screws. Unfortunately, this happens way more than it should. Anyways, these L brackets were going to be used to help line up the longer cross beams to secure the posts opposite of each other. But as you will see shortly, that all changed. I bought a pulley system at a really good price, and I will use a thick dowel rod to hold up the top part. And to support the dowel rod, I secured 2 beams perpendicular to the vertical posts. I used 2 brackets to keep the dowel rod from rolling around. And this is also the moment I decided that the drop ceiling needed to come down. The bottom part of the pulley was simple and straightforward. Drilled 2 holes for the anchor bolts to fit through and then ratchet them into place. Now I'm not finished, but my wife is on her way home and she'll be here in about 15 minutes. And I told her that the basement is completely flooded, like worse than it's ever been. And that I'm gonna be down here trying to mop it up. And when she gets home, I told her to come help me. And now I'm gonna wait to see her reaction to the halfway done project.
Shut up.
What do you think?
What?
Yeah, let me show you all the cool things. Hold
Wait,
on.
how?
I gotta turn this off. This next step isn't mandatory, but I wanted an area to place all of the weights when I wasn't using them. The plan was to drill a few holes into the middle support beam, and then cut a few dowels to the right length, smother the hole with glue, add a little bit of glue to the outside of the dowel, and pound it in so it was snug. here's us trying to solve the biggest problem. The problem was the weight on the barbell needs to be on the outside of the post. But as you can see here, I created the base too wide. In the end, we decided to shorten the bottom cross beams by a foot and unscrew and slide the top half over and set it on top of the vertical posts. Then, temporarily hold it together with all the L brackets before I could go back around and add the 12-inch structural screws wherever I felt like they were needed. The last thing I needed to do to shore up the base was to create 16 angle braces. These are quick and easy to make. You just take 14-inch 4x4 chunks and cut 45s on both ends. I then secured those 45s to each of the 4 posts, making sure to put one brace on each side of each post. Now that it's sturdy, we measured where each of our racks needed to go. To support the weight, I cut 8 2x4 pieces that had one side cut to 20 degrees and the other cut at 90. I then paired up the pieces and drilled 2 holes at a slight angle. I lined up where the barbells will sit. And then clamped, leveled, and drilled through the 4x4 post. Taking 2 8-inch lag bolts, I fed them through both of the 2x4s and through the 4x4 post, and then secured those with a washer and a nut. Using a 4-foot level, I was able to find the height of the other 2x4s on the opposite post and replicated the previous steps. After all of the racks were in place, I went back through with a ratchet and tightened all of them up. Rolling out the mats was the last step, and the rack was ready to go. Do I feel safe using the squat rack? Yes, I am very confident in my abilities and how I build things, and I've also done a lot of working out in the past, and so I know where a lot of the weight is going to be located on this rack. I do know that this build is going to change over time because there are going to be certain things that we're going to want to add on or take off, and so if you have any ideas on how to make this better, leave them in the comments below, and more than likely I'll probably change it up. With that, have a wonderful day. I'll see you all later. Peace.